in the 1940s, the McDonald brothers, the founders of McDonald's, they ran this restaurant, successful drive-in restaurant, and they faced inconsistency in food quality and service. And they had a problem. They needed a way to maintain standards and streamline operations. Okay. And what they came up with was this system called the Speedy Service System, very efficient assembly line system for the restaurant industry. Each employee had a specialized task. One person had to grill burgers. One person had to fry fries, and typical assembly line. Now you see this today when you go to a McDonald's or any fast food restaurant. But that's what they came up with, and they call it the Speedy Service System. That reduced wait times and improved consistency. And that's when Ray Kroc came in. He joined the company 14 years later, and he recognized the potential to franchise the concept that the brothers had come up with. And, he took control. He focused on replicating this success across all franchise locations. And what followed was a productization of the menu, right? Like they reduced their product line to just a few key items: burgers, fries, shakes, soda. That's it. That allowed them the key luxury of focusing on the process, focusing on creating a repeatable and consistent process and a scalable process, regardless of the location. And you'll see if you read a detailed version of this case study, is how everything was documented, and then how every process was created and replicated so that the food tastes the same no matter which location you went to. Okay, whether it was California, New York, or wherever. Fascinating case study. And then followed global dominance, particularly in the 1970s. This is when the McDonald's brand grew. And interestingly, it grew during the 1970s recession in the US. That's when people started cutting back on food. Every time there's a recession, people start using low-cost products and services. And McDonald's, I guess, was in the right place at the right time, really positioned for growth in terms of their price point, in terms of their efficient operation, and so on. And they really grew during the 1970s. And the reason for that was because they were ready. They had systems, they had productization, a standardized menu, processes, branding, and they scaled globally. Largest fast food chain. I think in 2023, they had about 41,000 locations worldwide, which is amazing. What a story. Now, I know that you folks are not here to learn about the restaurant business. And I know that this is not an apples to apples comparison, but I wanted to just present the story to talk about standardization and repeatability and service design. And a lot of the concepts that I'm going to be talking about are taken from, these success stories, and of course my experience as well in the consulting business. But a lot of the principles and fundamentals are the same in a lot of businesses. So I love learning from examples and learning from stories, and especially, I like learning from adjacent industries, even completely different industries, because that's how your creative brain will start to work, where you take one thing that is taking place in this other area, a completely different area, and try and apply it and see how you can apply it in your own area. So it's a good creative exercise to see how other industries and other businesses work. And this is by far, at least from what I've got my hands on, the most famous example of creating repeatability, scalability, consistency, and productization in a quasi-service business. You could say, of course, McDonald's sells products, but a restaurant operation is largely a service business. So so that's how I want to start off with that. So now we get to designing a repeatable and scalable consulting offerings. And I have a step-by-step process for that, which I'm going to share with you. But before that, a little bit about me. A lot of you here are here in this session for the first time, and you may not have encountered one of my other, any of my content before. So my name is Fahim Musa. I founded a strategic planning consulting firm back in 2009. That was also in the middle of the Great Recession. Since we were talking about recessions, that was bang in the middle of that Great Recession. I don't know how many of you remember that, but that's when my business started. And just as I was saying, I was talking about the McDonald's story, that recessions are not a bad time to start businesses. Because there are certain types of businesses that really grow during recessions, and depending on your value proposition and depending on who you serve, there's lots of opportunity. In the mainstream media, people talk about recessions like, there's, doom and gloom. For large businesses, it matters, but for a lot of small businesses like ours, recessions are a great time to capitalize on and grow. But then I digress. That's a story for another day, and that's the learning from another day. But that's how I got started. And over the years, I've sold more than 200 consulting engagements on my own. I had a team of associates as well, but I was the principal sales and business development person for my firm. And over the last 3 or 4 years, I've been working exclusively with independent consultants and management consulting firms to help them build a sales pipeline and grow their business. One of the biggest issues with us consulting firms and independent consultants is that we're really good at what we do. Technically, we're very good in our work, but how do you sell clients? How do you sell new engagements? How do you build a pipeline? How do you market yourself? How do you position yourself? How do you create offers? What do you say? How do you communicate value? All of those things. And then once you land a sales opportunity, what do you say to them? All of those things are sales and marketing related. And that's something we don't have experience in. And that's the gap that I fill. So I know that this is a huge problem because I face it myself in my business. So that's a little bit about me. For those of you who are interested, these sessions, Consulting Growth Hour, I do these every 2 weeks, and we talk about a different topic each time. And all of these replays are housed in my community, Consulting Growth Hub. I've added a link in the chat, so go ahead and check it out and join the community. It's free. You'll learn how to build a sales pipeline and land your next $100,000 plus consulting engagement. There are a bunch of other consultants as well. It's free for now, so go ahead and sign up, and I'll see you on the inside. I have 50 plus masterclasses of various consulting growth topics that'll help you build your consulting business. Okay, so the link is in the chat. Go ahead and sign up. All right. And for those of you who are listening in on the podcast, just check out the show notes, and you'll see it there. So before we get into designing the steps to design a consulting service that grows, let me tell you what the challenges are and how a consulting business evolves. Right. So in the early days of your consulting business, and those of you who resonate with this, just type in the chat and share and let me know if this is resonating, because I'd like to know if I'm on the right track. In the early days of your consulting business, typically you'll get some referrals. Like I'm talking about consulting businesses like, strategy consulting, HR consulting, operations consulting, IT consulting, project management. A lot of consulting that is geared towards small to mid organizations or even large organizations. If you're selling into an organization, typically you will be introduced to potential buyers through referrals. And that is generally a good thing because referrals are very powerful. This is a business based on trust, and getting an introduction to a potential buyer is very powerful because then there's a transfer of trust there. Somebody trusts the buyer and that buyer trusts them. And as a result of that, the buyer trusts you as well because you came in through that referral. So that's a great thing, but there's a downside to this as well. You see, relying just on referrals means that you get introductions to people randomly. You get introductions to sometimes a former client will say, okay, you know what, this other person has a similar kind of problem, or this other person was looking for a business consultant. Why don't you go and talk to them? So initially, that's still okay. You can go and get a couple of clients through your referrals. But if you rely on that channel, what generally happens is that you get too many types of clients, too many types of different clients, and you're working in different projects. I'll give you an example. One of my clients was a fractional chief operating officer, COO, and that's how they started. But they got referral after referral, and suddenly they were doing some chief financial officer roles. Then they were doing some project management type roles, and within those financial and operational types of projects, they were doing, one project would be simply valuation, one project would be just creating some cash flow statements or whatever. And it was all like just a mishmash of various types of projects. And suddenly they were doing like 5, 6 different types of projects with 5 different types of clients. And every time they had to reinvent the wheel, create new frameworks, create new templates, and just jump from one type of engagement to another type of engagement. And that became exhausting. Yes, the money is good initially, but that becomes exhausting. And it's hard to continue that for a long time, because then there's no direction for the business, right? And plus, when you go from project to project, you don't build specialized expertise in one domain. You will learn that specialized expertise in a specific domain or field is what helps you build value, is what helps you attract, better clients, because you get, you've got experience, much better experience in that domain, in that field, that helps you charge more fees, and also gives you a lot more free time because you charge more fees, and then you're not under pressure to constantly get more and more clients. If you have 5 different types of clients and 5 different types of projects, you're not fully a specialized expert, which means that you are under pressure to lower your fee. And then you're in this game of, getting more and more clients for a lower fee, and that becomes very exhausting. So you get inconsistent fees, your profits shrink, and every time you feel, pressure to adjust your rates, and that chips away, of course, your profitability and your growth, right? And finally, if you operate that way, going from referral to referral, you may not have clear focus and momentum, and you're doing everything for everyone, which makes it hard to scale and grow. And it becomes like a hamster wheel, right? And even if you want to grow, if you want to put some resources behind marketing, how do you choose who to market to? How do you choose who exactly your target market is? How do you choose, where to find these people, what to say to them? Because now you're dealing with a lot of different types of clients. And I say this not just for those consultants who are doing different types of projects. Sometimes I see people even who are focused on a specific vertical, who do many different things for that client, and it can get a little confusing, right? So the goal of this session is to help you understand how do you kind of put together a service, or design a service that is standardized, that you can deliver repeatedly, and also which then helps you market the service, because then you have something to market. You have a story, you have a narrative, you have a standardized process around that, right? So we'll get into a lot of that in a bit, right? So let me just now go back to move on with this presentation. I hope everybody can see the presentation. Can you see Consulting Growth Hub right in front of you? Let me know in the chat. I'm gonna move on, but just confirm in the chat if you can see this presentation. So how do you design, given what I've told you, the typical challenges, how do you then design a service that is repeatable, that is scalable, that is consistent, and that um, you can help, you can use to grow? Number one, I call these the 4 Ps of designing repeatable, scalable consulting offers. Number one is the problem, um, a basic thing that every consultant or every business owner needs to have cognizance of. What is the problem that you're solving in the market? And who specifically do you serve? Right? Who specifically do you serve and what problems that they're going through? It's a very basic question, but I'll tell you why this is not very obvious to consultants, because consultants typically, especially if you're in the early days of your business, and you're referred to various types of clients, you'll go and you'll have a discovery conversation or a needs assessment, and you'll try and uncover what that individual is going through from scratch. So every time you meet a potential prospect, it's a different problem that you're trying to solve. And you cater using your functional expertise, you will cater and propose something, a solution for that problem. And I used to do this as well. Early in my business planning and strategic planning business, I would simply get referred to various people, and I would have a conversation with them, and they would tell me, look, they're trying to expand to a new market, and they need a plan, a market expansion plan, to expand to this specific geographic market. So then I would write a proposal for a market expansion plan, which would be, various components of that. Then somebody else I would meet would say, you know what, I'm trying to raise money from a private equity firm. So I need a business plan and a pitch deck that would help me go in and present. And so I would do that because I had some experience with that as well. All of this stuff was part of my functional expertise of business planning and strategic planning, but they were all different types of problems. Initially, it was fine. I'm not complaining because it gave me cash flow. I had bills to pay, right? So I used to take on all these kinds of projects. Then I would have someone who would come in and say they want something internally. They want to plan for the next 12 months internally, operationally. So they want to do that. So I would help them come up with some workshops, some facilitation sessions for management within that organization. I would help them build their vision and their mission and their value statements. And then I would help them put together some kind of positioning and so on. It was all internal for internal use. So that's another use case, right? Again, I'm not complaining. Those I'm very grateful for those initial engagements, but I wasn't going out to the market and attacking a specific problem. In my mind, I would just say, you know what, I'd meet businesses and I would help them solve whatever problem they have. But then, when you're designing a specific service, a new service, and you want to design a service for that is scalable and that you can grow, you want to choose and pick the problem that you want to attack or address, right? I'll give you an example. Look at the product world. Product designers think like this. One of my favorite examples is a running shoe. You see, a running shoe that long distance runners use, right? So a product like, let's say, Nike would come up with a specific running shoe for long distance runners, and they would have some kind of technology or whatever that would help soothe a runner's knees or whatever, right? They would design that product with a runner in mind and the problems that a runner faces, and they would try to bake those features in the shoe that would address those problems and solve for those problems. So, and this is how design thinkers think as well. Design thinkers, product designers, they design a product for a specific problem. And as service business owners, you want to be thinking like that as well. You want to design something based on a specific problem. You see, so if you're doing multiple things for multiple types of clients, or if you're doing multiple types of services for a specific type of client, you want to start thinking about designing your signature offering. Your one big signature offering that would that you could sell over and over again, which is mostly standardized, right? So the way you do that is to first start thinking about a specific problem. And I'll give you an example a little later once I go through the 4 Ps. The second thing is the payoff. Now, a payoff is your buyers or your potential clients' desired outcome. What do they want solved? What is their payoff? What is their desired outcome? So if you have no idea of that, then how are you going to design a service? How are you going to design something that is that somebody's going to be interested in? Okay, so think about your payoff. And number 3 is path. How will you solve their problem and help them achieve their desired outcome? So if they are here at the bottom left of the screen, if they are here and they want to go there to the top right, what are the steps? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or whatever. 1, 2, 3. How are you going to get them from here to there? You want to think about that. You want to think about the path, because then you'll have an outline of the service that you want to offer. And I'm going to give you an example. I know this is a bunch of theory, but stay with me. I'll give you an example. So that's the path, right? And finally, and this is important, period. How long will it take? Normally, if your way of doing business is to meet a potential client and ask them what they're going through and then solve for that, then you don't have a standard period of how long it'll take and how long the problem will take to solve and how long it's going to take for the client to get their desired outcome. As human beings, we want to know, right, how long things are going to take to get solved. So if you don't know that, then your clients are not going to be convinced, right? So be very cognizant of the fact that if you're designing something, you want to know that you want your clients to know that this is going to take this much time to solve. Any questions so far? Just type in the chat. Let me know if you have any questions. And if I'm able to take them now, I'll take them. Otherwise, I'll just take them in the end. Okay. So those are the 4 Ps of designing repeatable, scalable consulting offers. So let me just illustrate this with an example. And I'm going to share with you an example from my strategy consulting days. My background is strategy consulting. Before I started my own strategic planning firm, I worked in corporate consulting for a boutique strategy firm. And I love the way they do things. And I learned a lot in that organization. And I'm going to give an example of what I learned from there. Obviously not exactly what they were doing. I don't want to kind of share their model or anything, but I'm going to share with you their principles and what I use till today. So this was a strategy consulting firm, and typically strategy consulting firms like, let's say, McKinsey and Deloitte, and okay, these are the big guys, but a lot of strategy consulting firms too would go in and they would uncover needs and they would put together proposals, and they would be kind of haphazard. Some would be 4 or 5 months. Some proposals would be for 8 months, 9 months, whatever it is. They would have a methodology, a standard proprietary methodology, but it would all be different. And strategy consulting firms would cater to many different types of strategic problems. Some of them would be M&A, some of them would be strategic planning, some of them would be other types of strategy, market entry, et cetera, et cetera. So those firms too, I mean, while they were, they used to run their business, and some of them, would do well, they would still have a problem with scaling because they would not have a standardized process. But some smart firms do, right? So keeping that in mind and using a strategy consulting firm as an example, let's look at this. Let's look at how a strategy consulting firm would create a repeatable and scalable process. So on the screen, you see on the left-hand side a big thorny problem, right? This is the first P of that 4P process, starting with a problem. Any firm or any consulting firm, and as I'm doing this, talking about this example, think about your own company and your own firm or business, and think about what problem you solve. What is the problem that you are brought in for the most? If you're solving multiple problems right now, what is the problem that you are brought in for the most? That's generally a good place to start. And then also think about the payoff, which is the desired outcome. What specifically does your ideal client want to achieve, right? These are the starting points of designing a repeatable and scalable offering or service. Thinking about the problem and the desired outcome. Now, I like to think about, I'm going to get a little bit of, advanced theory, if you will, here, but bear with me. I like to think about problems as, the current pains that people are facing in their business. For a firm that does strategy, typically these kinds of the problems that they would try and solve is, for low revenue, or lower profitability, or lower enterprise value, those kinds of things. That's the pain or the issue that people face, and the problem that you would want to address. Another way to think about a problem is, what are people totally fed up with in the organization, in your client organization? For a strategy consulting firm, especially a boutique firm, executives in the client organization, we would be fed up of big consultants coming in and just throwing decks at them, right? That also is a problem that you can attack as a smaller firm. So what are people fed up with? What options are out there that they don't like? What is the root cause of them not solving or not getting to their desired outcome? Those are some frameworks you can use to zone in on a specific problem of your ideal client. Okay, but again, I don't want to digress and give you too much information. I want to keep it like as tight as possible, right? Then you get to the desired outcome side, right? Like, think about your client and the outcome that they really, really want. Right? There are 4 ways I think of outcomes. Number one, what are they trying to win? Like, what are they trying to achieve? Right? For a strategy for a consultant, for an organization that wants to grow and exit in a few years, it would be enterprise value. Or for a large organization, a public organization, it would be to increase its value, increase its value, which then increases its share price and so on. So enterprise value is a huge outcome that everyone wants, right? What are they trying to win? That's win. Then number 2 is, what are they trying to escape? Are they trying to escape a certain situation? Maybe it's high some kind of big danger that is imminent, some major tax fine or regulatory issue. That's escape. What are they trying to stop from happening? Are they trying to stop erosion of their brand? Are they trying to stop their best people leaving the organization? That also is an outcome, right, for a lot of organizations. And what are they trying to retrieve? Are they trying to retrieve their lost reputation, their lost brand, things like that? A lot of organizations are also trying to win back certain things, big customers that they've lost, and they're trying to retrieve them. Those are also huge outcomes. So think about all of this in terms of these 4 things, and you'll be able to kind of visualize and solidify what problem you're trying to solve and the desired outcome of your audience. So in this example, for a strategy consulting firm that is trying to build a repeatable and consistent and scalable service, the problem could be, and again, this is summarized, firms losing market share and profits due to poor go-to-market strategy. This firm is focused on one thing. The market has poor go-to-market strategy, GTM, as it's known, and we will go in and help them solve this problem. As a result of this issue, there are a lot of implications and so on. We will go in and we will focus on that. That's our functional expertise, and we will identify firms that have this issue. We will shout from the rooftops that we are the firm to solve this problem, and we'll go attack this problem. So you see how their mindset shifts? When you are clear about your problem and define your problem, that's the first step towards creating a solution that is repeatable and scalable. Without that, you're going to be shooting in the dark. You're going to be solving different types of problems for, basically anyone. And that, if you do that, then what you become is an order taker. You go to a potential client, they'll say, hey, you know what? I got this problem. Can you help me solve that? The second client too will say, hey, I got this other problem. Can you help me solve that? So avoid becoming order takers. Being an order taker in the early stages of a business is fine. I was too for a long time. But then to evolve, you want to stop being an order taker and you want to look at the market and identify a problem that you want to solve and a problem that you're amazing at solving. Okay, it's really important. Find a problem that is an unmet need, and also which allows you to express your expertise the best, and a problem that you know how to solve best. Again, there are different frameworks to do that, but we're not going to get into that now. A lot of this stuff is already there in my Consulting Growth Hub community. So look at the chat and just follow that link, and all of these masterclasses are there, more than 50 of them. So that's that. Then you have on the other side the desired outcome, and in this case, the desired outcome is for this client to outperform industry peers and significantly increase enterprise value. So this client or this consulting firm understands where their clients want to go, their potential clients want to go. They understand that for this market, this is where most organizations want to go, and this is what is most significant. This is what keeps these clients up at night, reaching this goal. So we want to design a service that allows us to help solve this problem that most organizations have in this market, and take them from here to a space where they significantly increase enterprise value. They increase their value of the business, then obviously, the share price goes up, the board's happy, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, most companies, that's what they want, right? They want to increase the enterprise value, like the larger and larger companies that you go, the larger and larger companies that you see. Also, of course, the smaller businesses, they just want to generate some cash and keep their families running and so on. Those are different outcomes for different businesses. But for this firm that is attacking this problem of firms losing market share, they are going to carve out a niche for themselves and look at organizations that are desperate and are who have a priority to increase their enterprise value. Okay, so that's how they've defined their market. Cool. So we've talked about two things, that the problem and the payoff, right? Remember, there are 4 P's. There are problem, payoff, path, and period. right? So the problem is firms are losing market share, and the payoff is that we want to significantly increase enterprise value. Now, what is the path? Now, the consulting firm has to design a path to take their potential clients from A to B, from big thorny problem to dream outcome. And here's how they do that. They design a methodology. And this is where, every consulting firm, most consulting firms, at least, have a specific methodology of how they solve problems. So for this firm, it's this 5-step methodology. I've just come up with these names. These are all made up, but I can tell you that, if a firm wants to use this, it would totally make sense if a strategy firm. Typically, the first step in any engagement is an assessment or an audit, right? Any consulting firm would go in and do an assessment or an audit or an evaluation to understand what's going on, right? That's step one. Step two would be to put together goals and objectives. That's the step two is ambition. Step three would be aim. In this case, would be put together, a plan of action, a plan to achieve that ambition. And number four would be to help them implement and put that plan into action, maybe engage external vendors, maybe bring in some associates to implement the plan, and so on. And number five would be ascent. How do you scale that plan and make that entire plan come to fruition, right? So when you have steps like this, you will help your client go from A to B. That's the path. And the path comes from you, right? You got to design that path, because that's the whole point, right? You're designing something that is going to help solve a problem, take that client to their desired outcome, and as a result of that, create something very standardized. And so within those 5 steps, you will then create steps of, processes of how you do things, right? What happens in the assessment phase? What happens in the ambition phase? What happens in the aim and action and ascent phase, right? And then you have like the building blocks of a standardized service. Now I'll come to the last final P, and I'll tell you a little bit more of some caveats and what you should watch out for. Now, in the time period, what you want to be doing is, like, a lot of consultants will find it very hard to explain to their clients and to showcase to their clients what their specific result would be. And for strategy firms, this is a huge problem, because strategy takes time to unfold, right? By the time you develop the strategy and implement the strategy, it may take 12 months, 18 months, or probably even more. So then how can you articulate what the specific dream outcome would be? How can you quantify a dream outcome? When you quantify an outcome, your standardized and repeatable process becomes far more strong, and more people are going to sit up and take notice. If you can go to the market and say that within 18 months or 24 months, we're going to help you increase your enterprise value, we're going to help you double your enterprise value, right? That's a powerful value proposition for most companies, right? But a lot of strategy firms will not be able to go out and do that, because they don't have full control over that. A lot of the things that enable that to happen would come from within the firm, right? So what do you do in this case? You can then simply tell the world that you've had certain successes in the past, and these are some case studies, and these are some of the results that you've got, right? If you've helped other firms to get this result, and you should have those other firms, you should have results. If you're promising this result, then you should have proof points, because then you have no business in being a consultant and an advisor, right? You should only create a service like this if you genuinely can take the client to that specific result, right? you're being hired for your expertise, right? And you have to showcase and show proof points to your clients that you can absolutely get that result. And here's how, here's what I've done. I work with these 5 clients or 2 clients or 3 clients, and these are the results that they experienced. One firm doubled their enterprise value in 2 years, and this other firm tripled their enterprise value in 4 years. And here are the results. Now, some of you may be thinking, okay, I'm designing this service for the first time. I'm new in consulting. How can I showcase those type of results? Well, then you can talk about, similar results that you've got in your corporate life. You worked in a team that you helped do this, and these are the results that you've got, right? And you have to have those examples and results ready. If not, then how can you go in and promise this new client or new prospect, this is what you're going to do for them? You can't do that. That's the beauty of being an advisor and a consultant. You've got successes behind you that you can kind of showcase and use as case studies as much as you can without divulging any confidential information, and tell the whole world that these are the outcomes that you've got before, and here's the process for that. You see, so many consultants don't talk about that because they're afraid of confidentiality and this and that. I'm not asking you to divulge any confidential information of past projects, but you can find ways to show proof points, find ways to show results, find ways to show progress and action and what happened the last time you took a client through this process. So, and that becomes a result. That becomes that part where this particular Nike shoe has helped many runners avoid injuries, and here's 2 runners talking about that. This particular brand of skis helps skiers go downhill and protects them from injury, and here's what our customers say. Proof points trump promises. Anybody can make a promise, but to have proof points, you truly got to be an expert. And I'm sure all of you, if you've chosen to become consultants and advisors, you've got proof points. Bring those proof points out and tell the whole world boldly, because proof points trump progress. Proof points trump promises. Anybody can make an empty promise, or not an empty promise, but anybody can make a promise, right? But to have proof points means that you're true, you've done it before, and you're the real deal, and you know what you're doing, right? That's a huge part of creating a service, because then you can tell them that, look, it took us 12 months, it took us 8 months. In 3 months, these are the milestones. Here's what typically happens in 3 months. Here's what typically happens in 6 months. And you can design a schedule around that, around the typical timeline. And then you can say that, look, here's how the past 3 engagements have gone. And here's the proof for that. And then you have a box where you have a repeatable and scalable service. Now, here's a caveat. Just because I'm saying that you have a repeatable, you can create a repeatable and a scalable service, does it mean that 100% of the time, all your potential clients will have the exact same problems, and these 5 steps will be exactly the same? No. Sometimes you may have to deviate here and there, but I would say that if you create a service that is 80% standardized and 20% customized, it's still fine. It's still better than having a service that's 80% customized. You see, we're still a service business, no matter what we say. We don't deal with tangible products. So you will find that sometimes when you go into specific clients, you'll have to deviate a little bit from that standardized process and create some customization around it. That's fine. But as long as the customization is minimal and you're using that standard methodology for your signature process to get that result, you're good. I have a standardized process for my for consultants that I use to help consulting firms, but I find that a lot of the times, not a lot of the times, every single time, there's a little bit of customization, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. But I would say 90% of my process is standardized. And I have very specific ways of going through each of these steps. So that's as far as this example goes. We've got 8 minutes left. I want to quickly go into a couple of examples and talk about what's coming next or what's already happening in the consulting world. But I've shared so much so far. Are there any questions? I'm going to quickly take a look at the chat and see if there are any questions. Just type in the chat. Let me know if there's anything, and then we can. I'll be happy to take them in the end. And type in the chat. Let me know if you want to come on and have a conversation about how you can think about creating a standardized service for your business. And we can just have that conversation and kind of, create that outline. But, when we talk about repeatable and scalable services, you also want to think about the future. And I'm always thinking about what's going on in the consulting industry. What does the future hold? What does the future hold? How are services evolving? How is productization happening today, and so on? And it's really interesting because now with a lot of technology, consulting firms are evolving. What I'm showing you today, or what I showed you today, is an example of a firm that is like a pure services firm. It's pure advisory. They would go in and they would have their own processes, and they would, have workshops and facilitations and research and primary research, secondary research, and they would put together a solution. But today, a lot of firms are using technology and baking them into their processes. And I'm going to show you some examples, a couple of examples of big firms that are doing this. I'm sure there are tons of other smaller firms as well, but I wanted to quickly show examples of a firm that everyone knows, McKinsey. Like McKinsey is a strategy consulting firm, and they have this tool called Periscope. So they describe it as the technology backbone of the marketing and sales practice. And they've got, analytics. They've got various tools. I'm just going to pull this up and share that screen so that, we can go through this together. So they've got various tools and processes that they've created that they now have their clients go through. And what they've done is create a proprietary system or a process. Hang on here. A proprietary system and a process that now they can sell over and over again. So let me just share this page by McKinsey. So you see, they're revenue growth experts. They talk about some issues, the next normal, problems, some stats. And here they talk about enabling 2 to 7% increase in return on sales. You see, they're quantifying outcomes. They've probably got this from past results that they've got. They're navigating a shifting mindset. And here they've got, these growth areas: marketing, customer experience, category, et cetera, all the industries they serve. Here they've got some case studies. So basically what this is, it's a platform. It's a technology platform that they bring their clients into. Now, mind you, I have no idea if this is working for them. I'm just, talking about the approach. I don't know if this firm, McKinsey, is actually, finds this successful or not. I don't have any insider knowledge, but the approach is what I'm pointing you towards. Like today, consulting firms are creating technology platforms to create those repeatable and scalable processes or services that they can sell over and over again. You see, of course, there will be professional services embedded into these services. It's not just that McKinsey is becoming a technology platform alone. This is more like an enabler. They use the technology platform as an enabler to increase efficiency and so on. And they would have, professional services on top to help firms navigate problems. You see, and it also kind of can work as a competitive advantage because, once companies are in the platform, they've got data analytics from the platform, they've got, trends and all that stuff, and there's a switching cost involved to leave the platform and go to another firm, right? So that also is an added advantage of creating a productized service and baking technology into it so that you build a competitive advantage and create some switching costs for your customers. You see, so it's pretty smart using this type of approach. Another firm that a lot of you may have heard of is where did my presentation go? There it is HubSpot. Hang on. HubSpot, I'm sure most of you have heard of HubSpot. They do CRMs and so on, like a lot of marketing technology. But they started as a marketing consulting firm. And they realized that a lot of companies are interested in inbound marketing, customers coming to them. And so they started talking about SEO and had some products around that and so on. And now they're more technology oriented. They've got, I think a large majority, upwards of 98% or something of their revenue comes from subscription to their technology platform. So they evolved from a purely services firm to a technology platform. Now, I'm not saying that all of you should do that. I'm just using this as an example and saying that technology is transforming every industry, and it's radically transforming the consulting industry as well, where firms can go in any different direction. They can become, they can use technology to enable their professional services, or they can simply pivot into a technology firm. A lot of small businesses, data analytics firms, they have their own platforms as well. And a lot of, other types of companies have their own platforms. Type in the chat and let me know if any of you have either used your own platform or used some kind of third-party platform to deliver your core services, or even contemplated creating some kind of platform to create a repeatable service that you can scale. I'm interested to just out of curiosity. So that's that. I'm gonna take a look at the chat and see if there's any questions. But type in the chat and let me know if you're contemplating putting together a service using technology or already have something. Jennifer asks, could you speak a bit to consulting to manage programs for nonprofits and government agencies? I feel like my firm often fills the gap of an employee. Now, it's top of the hour. It's 1 p.m., but I'm going to stay on for some time. And if I know that a lot of you may have to go, but Jennifer, if you would like to come on, I'm happy to just spend 5 minutes on understanding your core challenge, and then using the principles from today to put together some kind of a contours of a repeatable and scalable service for your nonprofit consulting firm. So if you're still around, I'll be happy if you could come on.
Yes, I'm still here. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? So Jennifer, tell me very briefly, tell me a little bit about your consulting business.
So JSA has been around for about 2 years. And my background is in higher education, philanthropic activities, as well as urban and regional planning. So specifically community development around that space. And where, similar to what you were saying earlier when you talked about your towers, I focus my firm around supporting community economic development initiatives, whether it be workforce development or small business growth, or coordinate small business ecosystems.
Okay, so I imagine that a lot of your customers are economic development corporations at the municipal level?
Yes, sir. Hmm.
Yeah, right. So I've served that market as well. So I've served the municipal government. I was helping them do some strategic planning around, their plans and programs, public-private partnerships, and so on. So, what is the challenge with respect to um, creating and delivering services,
So, not seeing so much of a challenge because I'm still young in the game, I guess is how I would describe it.
right?
I just want to make sure that I think I didn't realize that municipalities and organizations would hire companies to do what they technically need a staff of four to do. They
Hmm.
would hire a company just to kind of manage that whole concept, right?
Right.
And so sometimes I get a little concerned about what does the sustainability of this kind of work look like, and then another contract shows up, so then I don't really get too much concerned about it. So I guess I'm looking for just reassurance that this is a line of business that exist in several places. Like right now, for one client, I am building out their entire ecosystem. And it's not just consulting services. I just let their grant process for them and I'm managing all of those things. And in a perfect world, they would have a department that would do this, but they don't have the funding to be able to take care of a full department.
Right. Um, I understand where you're coming from. Now, you said that you're early in the game, which is great. And like I said earlier as well, when you're early in the game, you'll get different types of projects, and that's going to bring you cash flow. Sometimes you won't know where your next project's coming from, and when you get one, then it's always good news.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so typically there's no way to control the kind of projects that you get for economic development corporation, because typically the process is they would send out an RFP. You got to propose, you got to kind of write an RFP and get in. Is that how you usually land projects, through bidding, through the bidding
I have
process?
yet to reply to an RFP. I have been requested.
Okay, that's great. So
Um,
then,
yeah.
so you get requests for certain types of, to fill in certain types of roles, and that there are certain types of consulting needs that require that certain types of clients that want a firm to come in and fill in. There's in the IT world, they call it body shops. They get
Okay.
firms to come in and replace, let's say, 4 people, not actually fire 4 people, but then there's the need, instead of hiring a full-time employee, they would just get a firm to come in and do it. Now, here's the thing. At this stage, there's really no way to control what a firm wants, right? So there are a lot of consulting firms that are happy to do what firms want. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's lucrative and so on. But if you wish to create a firm that um, has a repeatable and scalable process, then you'll have to make a strategic choice. You'll have to make some
Mhm.
choices. Now, you mentioned there are other things that you do, grant writing and so on, right?
Yes,
Now,
sir.
grant writing, I know, is something that, a lot of firms want. A lot of nonprofits want it. Government agencies want it. Maybe not so government, not so much government agencies, but a lot of nonprofits want grant writers. And
But the
that's
government agencies too, because the
yeah.
cities are going after federal grants. Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's perfect. So
Mhm.
that's a need, right? Now, I'm
Mhm.
just using that as an example. I'm not giving you strategic advice because I don't know your business that well. But if you want to be in that situation where you want to create a service that is scalable and repeatable, you got to make strategic choices. Maybe you would look at all your services that you've done at some point, and you would say, you know what, this grant writing thing is growing. I have great proof points. I've written
Mhm.
several grants that have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for lots of agencies, lots of nonprofits, and so on. Federal funding, state funding, whatever it is, private foundations. I know exactly how to do this. I know the sources of raising grant funding. I know the ecosystem. Perhaps I can create a process, or a repeatable process, or design a service around the perfect grant funding process. Perhaps you
Mhm.
would then say, I'm going to solve this problem of government agencies wanting federal funding, and here's how I'm going to do that. I will only focus on government agencies that want federal funding of upwards of $5 million. I'm going to position
Mhm.
myself over there. And here's the process, and here's how I'm going to get clients, and here's what I'm going to tell them. I'm going to tell them that, I've helped people, other agencies do the raise upwards of 5 million, and it takes, typically this long. And then you're going to have put together a marketing plan to go after specific agencies, and create a service like that. So that I'm just giving you an example, but
No, I get that.
my point is that you've got to make a strategic choice as to what that thing is. What problem do you wish to solve, and who your specific buyer is, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir. It does. And as I think about it, I wanted to make sure when I started that I wasn't taking on every project everywhere, right? Because then even in scaling it with subcontractors, that then puts, instead of being able to give one subcontractor several duties within in several projects, I would have to have 3 or 4 subcontractors, which gets a little more, it's a little sketchy. So conceptually, what I really am passionate about is connecting entrepreneurs to resources and opportunities. And so I've been able to do that through my municipal work as well as my nonprofit work, because I have 2 nonprofits I work with that go into HBCUs, and they literally work with students to elevate their entrepreneurial dreams, right? But that's a whole process. It's a whole thing. We go after grants, we have programs, all of that. And so I end up managing both of those. And they look very similar on the municipal and nonprofit side. So grant writing has been a function of the programs that I have helped implement.
Perfect.
And so
yes.
When you talk about being able to have proof of concept, I never thought about that. I do need to create a not just my capability statement, right, but my proof of concept page.
Yes. And you talk about enabling entrepreneurs to have resources and so on. Look at incubators and accelerators. They're in the tech startup world. These services already exist, and that's a perfect example of a service or a professional service that is productized, right? They have incubators help entrepreneurs start up. They build an ecosystem around that, and so do accelerators that help startups grow. So they have a funding network within their ecosystem. They have mentors. They have free tools and resources, and so on and so forth. They have workshops and sessions. So they create a whole ecosystem that entrepreneurs can use, and they charge some kind of service, or they charge equity. So that's a perfect example of a productized service that you could emulate.
You're exactly right. So essentially, I am operating as an incubator and accelerator for nonprofits and municipalities to establish their small business support services.
Yeah, it could be. If that's what you want to do, then you could use that as a starting point.
Yeah, that's a great concept to benchmark from. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I really just needed more reassurance. Well, I don't believe in reassurance, because that is, I don't need confirmation. I needed, I don't know what the word is I need, but I'm
needed
young
a different opinion. Yeah, you need to bounce ideas off of someone. So that's exactly why you should attend the session. I'm happy
this was fantastic.
I'm happy you came on, and I look forward to seeing you again at future sessions.
I don't even know how I found this, so thank you so much.
Awesome.
But I put it on my calendar, and I put a note and said, "You must attend this. Like, don't cancel. Don't." I did that, so thank you. This was very helpful, and I loved your McDonald's recommendation or comparison. That was fantastic. I knew exactly what you meant.
I'm glad you enjoyed the session and you found value in it. Thank you so much, Jennifer, and the rest of you for sticking around. Make sure that you join the Consulting Growth Hub. The link is in the chat. I will see you next time around. Goodbye.